podcast excellence since 2005. This is the King of Podcasts radio network, kingofpodcasts.com.
Going deep once again into the friend zone files about a girl that still hung up on even today. It was just that one time, and I just want to have it one more time.
We are all a little depraved and debaucherous. Here is the King of Podcasts.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about Bonnie Blue saying now she's pregnant. We're not going to talk about the whole Justin Baldoni, Blake Lively thing. The fact that Blake Lively has yet to go ahead and file an amendment to the lawsuit that she put out against him and all that stuff. No, we're not going to talk about all of that. No. We're going to do more of the friend zone files. I just had a few other names that I pulled back up of various text messages, Snapchat messages, Facebook Messenger messages, among other things. And they are of girls that I had physical interaction with. So we talked about last week. Now, I didn't mention this part in last week's show. And I will tell you this too. If you're looking at the graphic of the program tonight, and if you saw last week's graphic, in the silhouette that I show you of the man and woman, I didn't tell you this part. I'm going to tell you this now. That the silhouette of the woman in last week's graphic and this week's graphic were actually taken from pictures of selfies that I got of them. But of course, I'm keeping everything anonymous. But I'm going to tell you that, yes, I took the actual pictures of them. Now, of the girl from last week, she was just wearing like just a t-shirt and a pair of shorts. That was it. She was just kind of like lean up against like a wall at a long mirror she was taking a picture into. Now, the woman this week, she's an older woman. Okay, because last week the other girl I met was 19 to start, and from the age of 19 to 26. I was trying to go ahead and I had one time that I got to spend with her, and then this week, the girl was more towards my age, in her 30s. Now, let's talk about it like this. So when I talk about the interaction I had with either of these girls, both of them were in the same place. Because living at home or living with roommates, I've always had that issue. I never have lived by myself. I just don't care to. But what happens is that it was always that part where I didn't bring anybody home with roommates around. Never brought anybody home when I lived at home with my parents. Didn't do it. So I was always accustomed to going to hotel rooms. If I'm going to hope to get some action going on, I would go ahead and find a hotel room and go that route. And there was one place I'd go to that sometimes you didn't have to go and pay for the whole night. You know, at that time, rooms weren't 10 years ago. You remember hotel rooms weren't that much. You could easily get a room for $50, $60, $70, $80 a night. And you can get something pretty decent. And conveniently located. And this one particular place that I can still go to now is a love motel. It's something that you would see out of, in, say, Colombia or Costa Rica or the Dominican Republic. They have these things called love motels. And what happens is that there are people who can stay at these places. Some people might stay for a month or stay for a week. But then they have rooms allotted for when people just want to go and get together. And it's just for an hour or two. So now this particular place I go to, I'm not going to give the name of the motel, but it's in Lake Worth Beach. We'll just say that. It's not too far from the State College. And what I do is that it is a common spot because there are a couple of nightclubs not too far from there. There's one in particular that is, they got the Mexican music, like the corridos, they got the ranchera, banda music, they got the real Mexican kind of stuff going on. And this is a very popular spot for many people to know that if they just needed a place just to go and hook up, and they're not ready to go and take somebody home, or they just like it's just a fool around, then these rooms are cleaned up and you can go in there for an hour or 2 hours at a time. 2 hours at a time. They would actually book like for an hour, or you could do 90 minutes or 2 hours, and sometimes a little bit more, depending on. And it was just a set price. You go in there, fill out a card, they get your information. They don't even give you the key. They just like, okay, the door's open after they had just cleaned it, and that's it. And so I went with both of these girls to this particular place in different times, by the way. So the girl from last week would have been 2017 or 2016. And the girl this week would have been, at first it wasn't right away. I'll tell you like this. So when I met this particular girl, she was working at McDonald's. And it apparently was just a job she had just gotten recently. Her normal work was as a hairdresser. She was a hairstylist. And one of the things was that I happened to see her like coming out of work, and she was ending at the bus stop. And you know what? I saw her like heading to the bus stop. And for whatever reason, I found her attractive. I just, you need a lift. I offered to go and take, because it didn't look like she was anything they gave me like that. And, there was a time where like I didn't mind heading up a bus stop. And if I saw a girl random there, hey, you need a ride, I would do it. I've done it. It's not something I'll do now. It's just not one of those things that you do. But I was one of those guys that was not afraid to go and just like holler at a girl on the street in front of a store or whatever. Like for me, I was rampant in like approaching girls. And sometimes I just didn't worry about if I met them where they were like working in the store, they were working right then and there, and like ask them out, or just meet them in the mall or wherever it was. Like at that time, especially 10 years ago, especially before social media, that's all it was. Or even before that, it just, the dating apps weren't like it was. And like you didn't have this much of the issues about approaching women. 8 years ago, it wasn't that big a deal. And that was the thing, I was like kind of all caught up in that. And it was really like even before COVID. Let's just be honest like that. Before COVID, it was just like exactly like that. I picked her up, and it was just platonic to start. I didn't even think anything else of it. As I got to know her better, I noticed that there were things that were red flags I was kind of like looking past. She was living at home with her parents. Her mother was a real mother. Her father was in another state, and her mom had remarried. And her and the stepdad didn't get along great. And, when I met her, I want to say she's 34 years old now. And when I met her, she would have been, let's say 26. Maybe even before that, but I'm trying to think about what it was. I want to say it was probably, she was 26 when I met her. So basically, getting back to the story, we met up a couple of times. There was one night where I remember I took her out shopping because she was just trying to get herself back on her feet. She had just moved back into town, and as she was staying with her mom because she was trying to like recollect things. I never really got into too much as to what went on, but she had moved from Georgia to Florida. Now, currently, she's back in Georgia. So there's no plan of me ever going up there to go visit her. Like, she's out there, she's gone, fine, good. And one of these was that I feel there was an attraction. Obviously, there was a physical attraction between me and her. And we felt like we could be intimate. It wasn't anything sexual right away. It wasn't until maybe about a couple of years later, actually, because there was a time where I lost track of her. And she was just off doing other things. And so I didn't think twice about it. It's like, okay, it was like kind of a friendship, all we were getting along. And I did take her out once, and I was like trying to go ahead and get close to her. But nothing happened after a couple times getting together. So I just let it go. She reaches back out. And then we reconnected. This is where the messages I have tell me about this. Now, according to when I put this through the AI, it talks about how there were fragmented messages between me and her. And with that, we had a shared romantic and sexual history. So this was after I got to meet up with her again. And we did hook up. And let's just say like this. you obviously know of those times yourselves where you have a girl that you have hooked up with, and it was like one time, and like, man, it was unforgettable. It was like so much fun. It was great. It was that one night that just everything clicked. She looked just right. The timing was just right. Everything was working out perfect. Couldn't have been better. And you want to go ahead and relive that again. You want to go ahead and revisit that or make it a better night, another night like that. And that's what I kept looking at, because I remember I took pictures of her before we got together. And I remember she was dressed all in black. She was very tall, about as tall as I am. I'm 6'2". And that's very not common to go and find a girl that's over 6 foot. But once I had her kind of settled down, and the thing was, she's very sassy, very chatty, and kind of like all over the place. A little bit erratic. That's okay. So she was a bundle. And I didn't mind trying to handle that bundle and trying to kind of keep her calm down and get her to a certain place. Because there were just certain points where she was very sweet and demure and loving. So I was hoping to go ahead and find her at that point. So you remember how I was last week. I'm always nostalgic because I think about the good time that I had. And I always want to just like revisit that once again. And I recall specific moments about what we did together, intimate encounters. And I told her about keeping a picture of her. And I told her, I always love how beautiful you look. I loved how wonderful it was to put my arms around your soft skin because of how well you take care of it. And I told her there's nothing stopping you from being with me again. Now, she acknowledges the past that we had, but she doesn't have the emotional intensity that I have. And she's moved on to a different career. But there's always this thing where she always wanted to have some kind of, keeps a distance, but then would always come back and try to rekindle things. And I never really understood what she was trying to do. There was one point where she got back into working in a salon. And she was working in a chain, let's just say. And I remember, my thing was, why did she want me to go? Because I don't have hair to cut. I keep my head shaved or it's bald. Like right now, I haven't been to a barber in 25 years, maybe 30. And so what happened was that, I started losing my hair early on. So I just kept shaving it bald. And I used to go and use clippers, but now I just use a razor every other day. But then she showed me a treatment that I still use today. So because of her, there's a treatment I use right now commonly. And it's tea tree treatment. And so this particular chain hairstyle place, they use this treatment for the guys that are there when they're getting their hair washed and they're getting themselves all cleaned up. So like, I use the same system. And for the first time, she just had like an open day and whatever. She said, hey, come by my shop. And didn't have a customer. She's like, okay. She takes me back to go and get the hair wash and all this stuff. And then she shows me the products and like, hey, you should try this. And she's the one like working on me right there. And I was enjoying it. I was like, okay, this is great. And I thought that meant something else was going to happen. But I don't know. It was just like, it was just a tease. And I felt like that's all she did was just tease. Now in this interaction, when I go through the analysis here, we got to a point where what she wanted to do with me, because things were still tough because she had changed jobs and things were always changing along with her. And part of the thing too is also know that she would do things that I didn't really know much about, but I could put two and two together. She didn't have a car, but she would take a train that would go from county to county. And she would go south to go visit somebody down there. She says it was a relative. I'm not sure if it's true. And she would go down because one of the things she did do was she does smoke weed. I don't know if she does anything else. It never really came across to me like that. But again, I never interacted with her in that way or spent that much in-person time with her. It was more just phone calls we ever got. And a couple times we got together, which were fun. And so I think one of the things that she was going through at that time, and that was one of the first things she made a point of, was she wanted to ask me for help financially. We own this part. And this is well before, like, we all got in the paper for playing. Things were just getting to a point where, like, every girl you feel like is asking you for money or asking for something of you. What do you got? What do you got for me? That's the part I was looking at. But then I'm always chasing when she gives me a reason to go back and chase, right? It's like I went away from this, but then there's something that she does that will try to drag me back in. Like I'm Michael Corleone in Godfather 3. It just keeps happening like that. So when there's a psychological analysis I go through on this, when I put this through the Gemini, right? The Google Gemini, they tell me this, that I exhibit signs of longing and possibly obsession. And I focus on past intimate moments, emotional language suggesting I am struggling to get past the relationship. Well, it wasn't a past relationship. It was just, I was still hung up on her because we did have a couple of good moments together. And again, I was stepping away. I was trying to remove myself out of this. I wasn't even thinking about her. Her number might be on my phone, but I wasn't calling her. She's the one who reached back out to me. But part of this, it was probably because of the financial help. That's why she reached out, which I could have just shut down, but whatever reason I didn't do that. Now, when I have her behavior and analyze, it's more difficult to interpret. She had still had a desire to maintain some connection, but she had a more reserved communication style with me, suggesting a need to protect herself emotionally or a lack of interest in rekindling in the way I wanted to. Well, we got to that point. We finally started talking about if there was a relationship. I offered to go ahead and make that point forward, because the thing is that when I tried to go and have some kind of relationship with her before, that was just the friends with benefits. Her thing was she just would not get together. She would not make time. She never had time. And when we did set aside time to get together, it was always something or other. But yet she still wanted to go ahead and have something with me, but it's like whatever's going on with her will not allow it. And I shut her down. And I made it a point to sever it. But then something happened. I don't know. She just kept coming back. You just can't get away from it. And I wish there was more to go and say about it that made sense, but there wasn't. And then when she talked to me, there were just certain times she would just be very philosophical, because that was one thing she also liked to do a lot of, where she just had her ideas about things. And I think she was just being ambiguous and vague and just kind of just spinning me around, like trying to make my brain spin around a bit. And then at the same time, she would tease. It was like, I never really understood what she was trying to do, because she really, the motive that was there, I shouldn't have taken the calls. I shouldn't have taken the messages, but I still did for whatever reason. And I don't know. But I mean, I still hold on to one picture I had of her that was still like everything that I remember. It's like, at least when I got that done, it was my chance to really just enjoy what she looked like and just enjoy the time we had together. So in 2021, so after COVID, she reconnects with me. And over the next year or two, she's reaching out to me back and forth. And then she reached out to me again once she moved back up north for whatever reason. She tells me that I've been on her mind a bit lately. And this is what happened in 2022. She wanted to go ahead and reconnect. She told me, I've done a lot of mental work and growth. There's plenty of reason why you've been on my mind. Lots of things you said stuck. Because when I tried to shut things down with her, she came back, trying to show me she turned a new leaf. So I gave it a chance. And this is when she was still here. And I would go ahead and be nostalgic to her. And I talked about her. She told me that I miss how you made me feel, like absolutely secure. It's deeper than the material that I felt drawn to with you, yet at the time, that's all I could mentally process to accept. Not understanding the materials are simply symbols of affection, not to be taken for granted or solicited. Because I bought her gifts. At first, it wasn't anything transactional. It was just I wanted to buy her a gift because I wanted to wear something that was cute for me. So I asked her to do that, and she wore it for me, and that was great. I enjoyed that. And then I told her about, it was a family emergency I had gone through, and she was going through something with another family issue for herself. And then she tells me about the fact that she didn't want to be a bother to me with the needs she has and me having all the things that I have going on. And then she tried to make the point that from the time we spent together and the pictures that I held on to of her, she had told me that she changed a lot and she had gained weight. I didn't see it. I still found her very attractive. But then the thing was back to the same thing it was before. Couldn't make time to get together. And when I tried, we never did. It was only until I met her at the hair salon when she was working. Other than that, nothing. And we couldn't find a way to go and reconnected. And then it was an issue where she had been estranged from her father and was able to go and rekindle, reconnect. And that's why she moved back up north. It was for that. Then she talked about the idea of, I want to be your doll again. Dress me up, take me out, bring me in for loving, and release me for living. And then I don't know. And then she would still be playful with me. She would say, I'm thinking of feeling the heat of your body and just being with you. And that's just me asking, what were you thinking about? And she just made some kind of comment. And then one of the true red flags that I really never really put myself around, she made the point that she had held a steady job and she had been taking medicine. So there was a mental instability that she'd dealt with. And I guess it was something off and on. I guess I never saw it. And she told me that her stability wasn't debilitating to the point that she couldn't work. She had tried and failed because her mind was more present than gone. And that once she moved away, she found a therapist and psychiatrist. And then she told me that she just wants she wants to be held and listened to, understood to a degree that action can be taken. So when she moved, and this is what she told me about when I finally started learning about herself, that before I met her, she had been and with some kind of drug addiction, didn't know exactly what. She did have a boyfriend that she did go visit. And I think, if I put everything together, she was still seeing the guy. Again, we were just friends with benefits. I wasn't trying to get any kind of commitment. But then she started trying to come along to find a commitment. And she did have a boyfriend. And that was, she said, it was all before she came to meeting. And that when she moved to where I saw her, she was getting herself back on her feet. She had been recovering for a while. But then at the time that I finally got reconnected with her, she had told me she had been clean for 3 years. And then basically, it was always like, let's meet up, let's hook up. We never did. And then one of the things was that she got upset about is that I didn't have the right amount of time for her. She referred to me as that my flexibility was that of a very married man trying to satisfy himself. So she did a put down on me to get upset because I couldn't make time for her. So that got her all into that. And then she comes back at me and says this is her way of shutting me down. Fine. She says, I'll be fine. I believe therapy would be beneficial for you. Oh, actually, let me go into what I said before this. Okay. I told her that, to be honest, you're the last one I tried to satisfy the most, and I guess I wasn't good enough then, and I'm not good enough now. She told me that I believe therapy would be beneficial for you. If you want someone to do whatever, then you have to be willing to do whatever. You aren't the only one in a relationship. If you want to be in control like you do, you will have to pay for it, she says. I am and will be fine. Thank you, goodbye, forever. Okay. And then 2 years later, she reaches back out. Okay. And she's reached out a little bit from last year, and that's it. Everything just fizzled out. It's all transactional from here. Okay. And really, I don't have an interest in going back into all this again either, because it's just not what. But then what she told me was, and this is the last message I got from her after reconnecting with him again last year over a couple of different pieces of dialogue. Well, like I said, she's somewhere else. I'm not trying to get back together with her or whatever. And when I told her that my life had changed since I met her, because things had to change for me in a way in my setup. She says, I do understand how life happens. There are many aspects and elements that have varying degrees of needs which require priority attention. For me, is the intention and attention, even an acknowledgement of desired time spent when possible. I appreciate the acknowledgement first and foremost, and if at some point soon, see about me. She said, I'm grateful I can do what I can. I'll be in touch with you soon. And that was it. And that was like 6 months ago. But through everything that's gone on with her, it was like this back and forth, push and pull, leave, disappear, come back. And I've had girls that do that all the time. And I'm sure some of you have also gone through that friend zone behavior as well, the same way. And you can't understand why. Like, what is going on here to where if you're trying to do the right thing and step away, but one thing that's very clear is that every time I talk to her again, I always referred back to that one time together. A particular night that I wish it was just like every night. Because everything was just great. And it wasn't anything like of any control. I just think we were both into it. She was finally into it like I wanted to be into it. And I was okay. Other than that, nothing. I mean, for all the headaches and for all the back and forth of going, that one night wasn't worth it. It was enjoyable, but unfortunately, when you are a guy like me that's been constantly single for a long time, all my life basically, it's moments that I can remember. It's never experiences, it's never relationships. It's moments. And moments can only be like a night or a couple of nights. And that's it. I don't like it to be that way, but it has been that way. And I don't know. The other thing too that also turned me the wrong way is obviously the idea that it had to be transactional. And that she was hesitant to make it transactional. So, I mean, she had a conscience about it. Because the idea was that if I would have gone on to be transactional with her, I mean, part of the things I was trying to do was I was going to do something to help her out because I was going to try to help her out. You know, even at the time before she moved away, I was offering to be helpful and support her because there were certain things she was asking for help for, and I was going to offer to help. But it never got to be that point. And yeah, I wanted things to be intimate together. I wanted to actually be something with each other. I didn't want this to be platonic and there's nothing coming out of it. Like, if we're hooked up, if we're together, then yes, I'll support you. But at this back and forth, you know, hot, cold kind of thing was going on, I didn't want any of a part of it. So I was happy to go and just push away. And I did. Several times. And we had these times where we severed things with each other. Hers was always on text. Me, it was on the phone. It's just the way I operated. Because like I said, if I was being controlling or manipulative or narcissistic, okay, then I tried to self-destruct. I don't think I was that way to her. I really don't. But the one thing I can tell you is that I still reacted the same way. Like, if somebody doesn't want to be with me, I'm not going to just stay friends with you. Oh, I'm going to break it off. I'm done. And that's what I tried to do again. But it didn't work that way. I don't know. And I tried. But there's just so much going on a regular basis. And I'll tell you this. Like, right now, I see a picture of her that she just posted today on her Facebook. She still looks great. Everything that's being said about, like, you look at her and you'd almost say, like, you wouldn't think there would be all these things that were going on and the kind of history that we have with each other would be so bad. But it's the way it is. And I just can't deal with that kind of stuff. I mean, I've been so much happier at peace. It's funny, I've been watching the TikTok videos now more often of certain girls that are out there. There's one girl in particular that caught my attention. I should go ahead and look that up and just show it to you. Because it's one of those, it's like this girl being Allen Iverson. I kid you not. So yeah, give me a second. I'm going to go ahead and pull that clip up for you because you got to hear this girl for yourself. We got to comment about it.
I don't think men like women anymore. I don't think that men desire us women anymore, us real women. I don't think that they value us like they used to.
When I heard that, I was like, okay. You know, it's one of those where, is this kind of just getting where guys just need to go ahead and just get triggered by this right off the bat? I mean, it feels very delusional. She's a young, beautiful girl that's just trying to make the point. She says here that friends are complaining that men are not what they're used to be. All ages, what's happening? What are y'all doing? And then one of the parts she has to go on and say is, what are y'all men doing? What are you doing? Let me find out if I can find that spot.
But I see women all over the globe complain about what's happening with men nowadays. Is it women that's not making themselves desirable anymore? Because there are beautiful women out here, beautiful women, ambitious women, caring women, nurturing women who are outside looking for love, and men that just can't keep up with that. Like, they're not.
She talks about the fact that guys are not being adventurous. They're not kind of letting the girl just go along and do what they want to go and do. Like, they want to be held by the hand and just follow me to whatever kind of danger, whatever kind of trouble I want to get myself into. That's what she wants. It's like kind of like that reckless behavior. And I get it, but it's like the positioning of where guys and gals are today, it doesn't work anymore. It's just not now. It's just too much. Like, there's way too many different stereotypes and way too many different pieces of stigma about where guys don't want to approach because we don't want to go ahead. It's not for rejection's sake. It's for accusation's sake. We don't need that kind of hassle. And then the expectations of what you have versus who you are, we don't need that either. Who wants any of that? And those are the kind of things we're seeing right now more often than it's like, you know, that's the part I just don't want to deal with. And then she goes on with this, and this is where I call her Allen Iverson's daughter, because the way she starts off here.
Going out and discovering the world. What are y'all doing? What are y'all men doing other than that? What are y'all doing? What are y'all doing? Like, what are all y'all men doing? What are y'all doing? If it has nothing to do with a woman, what are y'all doing? Are y'all working? Because we're working too. Women are also working. And we still can do things. We still can go on vacations. We can still go out to eat. Why are us women going on vacations with our friends? We're going on vacations with our friends. We're going out to eat with our friends. We're going to do fun things outside with our friends.
And I hate to tell you, darling, but that's how it's going to stay. I'm not sure what you think you're going to be able to get that's going to make any much of a difference. That's going to change the mind of guys out there. I don't think there's anything you can do. So, girls' night out, girls' weekend, you'll have to go out on your own and get a little depraved and debaucherous.